Hey everyone. So climate change is this really big picture idea, and a lot of people in my experience can't see the big picture. And so because they can't see the big picture of climate change, they don't do A, B, C through Z, simple things to help affect change, because it's not in their daily lives. Today I want to give you a few simple metaphors that you can use to make climate change a little more accessible for people who just don't get it. My first metaphor is by this guy, Al Gore, former vice president. I'm going to include the link below because it's still an incredible read if you haven't. One of his professors in college was the person who discovered that we were heating up the planet. So he was front lines from the very jump. One of the metaphors that he uses that I like to use a lot is, do you remember those commercials where there was a slow motion car crash with the dummies? And you see the front of the car collapse, and then the windshield collapses, and then the dummies start collapsing, and the airbag goes off, and then slowly they hit that wall. Climate change is like a slow motion car crash. The reason people don't understand climate change is because we're only seeing individual pieces of the car. We're not seeing the full picture. Someone in one state might see drought. That's a little unusual for that time of year. That's like the windshield crumpling. Another person might see that the songbirds in their area have died off. That's another crumpling. And then another person might be studying icebergs that are melting at a faster rate than they were before. That's the back of the car hitting a wall. So Al Gore says we have to kind of pull out in our mind's eye and see this individual symptoms as a sign of a bigger car crash that actually is happening a lot faster than slow motion. Another car metaphor that I often use is from this incredible book called When Technology Fails, which is like a survival manual that teaches you all that you need to know if the electricity grid goes down, for example. Their metaphor is that a modern car uses shock absorbers and suspension springs to give us a smoother ride, right? Earth's processes are like being in a really smooth car with shock absorbers. If your shock absorbers are worn down, you're in for a freaking bumpy ride. So their metaphor is that the physical world has components like a car's shock absorbers. And the recent rash of severe storms, extreme heat, severe drought, all of this are warning signs that we have damaged the Earth's shock absorbers. And if you have poor shock absorbers, it threatens the entire stability of the car in the first place. Another metaphor I've used and liked is the idea of a child with a fever. If your kid has a fever and it's not going away, you're most likely going to take your child to a pediatrician, not to an oncologist or an orthodontist. You're going to take them to a pediatrician. And if that pediatrician thinks that the signs are getting worse and they're like 98% sure that the signs are getting worse, you're most likely going to follow their advice and take your child to the hospital for the sake of the child. You're most likely not going to debate, well, but what about that 2% that says like maybe this won't result in a major illness, You're not going to debate the doctor with that. Most likely if the doctor says this is urgent, I'm 98% sure that this is happening, you should go now, you're going to take your child to an emergency room. The planet is that child, and the reason we need to think about climate change and the symptoms that we're seeing is for the health, literally, of our children. Being on a planet that's facing climate change is like being with a bunch of people in a canoe. There's no land in sight, and the canoe springs a leak. What do? Some of us will most likely start complaining about how the canoe wasn't built well in the first place. Some of us will figure out what did we do? What went wrong? Why did this happen? Others of us will start to bail out the ship. Well, what does me buying a Prius or what does me cutting out meat do to the environmental situation? It's too big. It's too big for me to think about. It's all hands on deck time. If you have a bucket or if you have a thimble, you still need to bail. Not only because it helps, because every little bit will help, but because the act of simply participating, even if you only have a thimble to bail out the canoe, will help. Because what it does is it orients your spirit to fixing the problem. And so that small thimble will turn into a bigger action, and then a bigger action, and then a bucket, and then donating, and then going out in a rallying cry. So those are my metaphors that you can use. Please take them and run with them. I hope you can convince your parents. And Gungho Eco, every day, all the time, big picture.